Welcome to the Eerie Hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. We venture tonight into the dust-choked quiet of a forgotten inheritance, where echoes linger long after the voices have faded. Let the air grow heavy, the shadows deepen, and the story unfurl like a rust-stained map of the mind. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The key turns in the lock with a grinding shriek, a sound that feels older than the metal itself. You step across the threshold, and the air inside presses in, thick and stagnant, tasting faintly of mildew and something else, something indefinable that clings to the back of your throat. This is it, the house your distant relative left behind, isolated on a hill overlooking fields that stretch into an indifferent horizon. It feels less like a home and more like a sealed tomb. Dust motes dance in the rare shafts of light, piercing the grime-caked windows, highlighting the decay that has settled over everything like a shroud. The silence here is absolute, broken only by the creaks of the old house settling deeper into its foundations, or perhaps into something else entirely. Driven by a strange, aimless compulsion, you drift upward, through the lower floors draped in yellowing sheets, past rooms where furniture stands like silent, forgotten sentinels, until you reach the attic. The air here is even heavier, hotter, smelling sharply of dry rot and the memory of lives long concluded. Tucked away in a corner, half hidden beneath a forgotten trunk, sits an object that immediately commands your attention. A radio. Not a modern one, but a hulking wooden cabinet. Its dial a faded crescent. Its speaker grill veiled in cobwebs. It looks utterly non-functional, a relic that should belong in a museum, not a neglected attic. Yet you feel an inexplicable pull towards it, a sense of recognition you can't place. It feels less like wood and glass and more like something waiting. Curiosity battles a nascent unease as you kneel before the imposing machine. It seems impossible it could work. Its power cord brittle, its exterior marked by time and neglect. There is a peculiar symbol etched subtly into the wood near the tuning dial, a spiral inside a broken circle that feels oddly out of place, too precise for accidental damage. You reach for the dial anyway, expecting nothing but the hiss of dead air, the familiar chaos of static. Slowly, hesitantly, you turn it. At first, there is only silence, then a whisper of white noise. But as you sweep the dial, past where any local station should be, the static shifts. It becomes intricate, patterned, like a complex, distorted language. And then, fleetingly, impossibly clear, you catch fragments, a muffled cough, a distant snatch of melody, a whisper that evaporates before you can grasp the word. You stop turning the dial, holding your breath. The sounds are gone, replaced once more by the intricate, whispering static. It wasn't interference, not like any you've ever heard. A shiver traces its way down your spine. It must be your imagination, the silence of the house, playing tricks on your ears, amplified by the unsettling atmosphere. You tell yourself this, anchoring yourself to logic, but the image of that peculiar symbol on the casing and the echo of that impossibly clear faint sound loop in your mind. The house is just old. The radio is just broken. The whispers were just the wind, or settling pipes, or your own anxious thoughts taking shape in the quiet. Or were they? The air around the radio feels different now, infinitesimally colder, charged with an invisible tension. You stand, backing away slightly, the sound of the patterned static seeming to follow you. A faint, complex hum that now feels less like interference and more like listening. The air hangs thick and quiet in the old house, a silence that tastes of dust and absence. You move through the rooms, the floorboards groaning underfoot, each step a soft complaint against the stillness. Then, without warning, without a flick of a switch, the radio in the corner sputters to life. It doesn't blare music or news. It begins with a low, rhythmic static, like a distant ocean or sand shifting on glass. It's not random noise. There's a pulse to it, a steady hiss that feels deliberate. You walk toward it, drawn by the sheer impossibility of it turning on. As you get closer, a strange scent prickles in the air, sharp, clean, like ozone after lightning, concentrated right around the ancient cabinet radio. A sudden chill, deep and penetrating, settles over your skin, though the room was warm moments before. The static continues, a growing presence, filling the space. Then, something shifts within the noise. A voice emerges, clear and distinct, yet warped around the edges, as if speaking through water or heavy cloth. It's genderless, placid, stating a simple fact. The single white rose on the windowsill will shed its last petal precisely at 7:02 p.m. You laugh. It's absurd. There is a white rose on the windowsill, long past its prime, left there days ago, but predicting its final petal? You check your watch. It's just past 6. You move away from the radio, shaking your head, dismissing it as a glitch, a power surge perhaps. Yet the ozone smell lingers, and the static, though fainter now, feels like it's still humming in the walls. You find yourself glancing at the rose more often than you should. The time creeps towards 7:02 p.m. You stand near the window, a morbid curiosity overriding your earlier amusement. The rose is fragile, its petals translucent. As the digital clock on your phone flips to 7:02, the outermost petal detaches with a faint tap against the glass, drifting slowly onto the sill. The laughter dies in your throat, replaced by a cold, hard knot of dread. It happened, exactly as the voice predicted. The psychological ground beneath you gives way. Skepticism evaporates, leaving behind a raw, exposed fear. The house feels different now. The decay of peeling paint and water stains seems less like age and more like recent injury. You notice a long, thin scratch across the grandfather clock's case that wasn't there before. A fresh gouge in old wood. The static in the corner is silent now, but you listen closely, straining your ears against the house's natural creaks. For a moment, buried deep beneath the silence, you think you hear something else coming from the radio. A soft, non-human clicking, like stones shifting underground. The static isn't just noise. It's a veil, and something is trying to push through. This impossible knowledge, delivered by an empty room, feels less like a trick and more like a warning. Or maybe, less like a warning and more like a declaration of ownership. The air around the old radio seems to thicken, not with sound this time, but with implication. The predictions shift, no longer vague weather fronts or distant news of the sea. They narrow, focus. A photograph of someone you loved will fall from the mantelpiece and shatter at dusk. Hours later, a sudden, inexplicable tremor runs through the house, and you hear the faint, sharp sound from the next room. Glass. A portrait of your grandmother lies face down on the hearth. The frame intact, but the glass splintered into a web of fractured lines across her smiling face. You tell yourself it was the old house settling, a gust of wind, but the radio hums its low, knowing frequency. The locked door upstairs will be found ajar at midnight. You make a point of checking the heavy oak door at the top of the landing. It leads only to a small, unused storage space, always kept locked. You turn the key, test the handle, secure. The digital clock on your phone reads 11:58 p.m. You sit at the bottom of the stairs, watching. As the minutes tick past midnight, a soft groan echoes from above. You climb the steps, heart pounding, and find the door is not wide open, but just slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness visible where the frame meets the wood. No sign of forced entry. The lock is still engaged in the strike plate, yet the door hangs open. You need this to stop. This isn't just weather or ships anymore. This is personal, invasive. You grab the radio, its plastic casing strangely cool. You yank the power cord from the wall socket. Silence. Absolute, blessed silence. You breathe, but the silence doesn't last. A faint hiss starts, like distant rain on pavement. It seems to come not from the radio itself, but from the corner of the room, from the wall, from the very air. Static. It builds, a soft crackle, then a low, persistent buzz. The radio is dark, inert, yet the static persists. Panic claws at your throat. How is this possible? You check the plug again, trace the cord. Unplugged, dead. Yet the static fills the space, growing louder, closer, seeming to press in from all sides. This is where the break begins. You stare at the fallen photograph, the ajar door upstairs. Did you drop the picture yourself and forget? Did you leave the door unlocked? Perhaps just absent-mindedly turn the handle earlier? You trace the splintered lines on the glass with a trembling finger. Doubt seeps into your bones, a cold, insidious current. Am I doing this to myself? Am I creating the evidence? Paranoia blooms like a dark flower in your mind. The static shifts. It's no longer just noise. Within the hiss and crackle, you begin to hear things. Not clear words, but jumbled fragments, snatches of sound. A child weeping, the distant chime, a whisper that might be a name, distorted, lost in the noise. It's like listening to 100 broken broadcasts playing at once, just under the threshold of comprehension. Your own thoughts become suspect. Is the static real, or is it just inside your head now, a symptom of fear? The house feels less like a shelter and more like a skin, vibrating with an unseen broadcast. A forecast not of weather, but of unraveling. Perhaps the radio was never the source at all, merely the receiver for something that was always here, waiting to tune in. The voice from the radio speaks again, low and resonant, not predicting the future this time, but weaving tales of the past. It speaks of your past, but twists the threads, offering scenes you know you never lived. It describes a childhood pet, a shaggy, loyal dog named Barnaby, the weight of its head heavy on your lap as a child. You feel the phantom warmth, the rough fur under imaginary fingers, the ache of a grief you never experienced when it supposedly died. But you never had a dog. Never. You remember the quiet house, the careful parents, the absence of barking or slobbery toys. Yet, the feeling of Barnaby's presence is disturbingly real, a solid weight in your chest that contradicts everything you know. This uncanny intrusion into your history is the central event, a violation not of space, but of memory itself. Confusion settles like a shroud, thick and suffocating. Was there a dog? Is it possible you've simply forgotten? The thought is terrifying, a crack opening in the foundation of your identity. You walk from the radio, the air thick with a scent that isn't yours, a faint, sweet perfume, like lilies left too long in a room. It drifts through the hall, clinging to the heavy velvet curtains and the corners of rooms you thought were sealed. The house itself seems to confirm the radio's lies, or perhaps participate in them. A chair you distinctly remember leaving by the window is now tucked neatly against the wall. The framed photograph on the mantelpiece, the one of your family, feels subtly wrong. Someone is standing in a slightly different position, or perhaps someone is missing. You blink, look closer, and it seems normal again. But the doubt has been planted, a seed of rot in your perception. This is the psychological fracture, a deepening descent into uncertainty, where the world outside and the world within become indistinguishable nightmares. You feel a phantom touch on your shoulder, cold and fleeting, leaving a prickling unease that lingers long after the sensation fades. The taste of ash coats your tongue, dry and bitter. Although nothing is burning, nothing has been burned. It's the taste of forgotten things, perhaps, or memories turned to dust. The static motif, usually a crackling veil between segments, now coalesces into something more deliberate. It doesn't just hiss, it whispers. Distorted sounds twist into your name, repeated over and over, sometimes urgent, sometimes mocking. Then phrases emerge, fragments of conversations from your childhood, twisted and malignant, suggesting secrets or lies you were told, or told yourself. You were always, the static rasps, the one who forgot. It speaks of events you have no recollection of, weaving a false narrative that feels terrifyingly plausible in this disoriented state. Is the radio simply predicting a past you've repressed, or is it actively rewriting it, embedding these false memories like parasites? The subtle changes in the house, the moved objects, the oppressive atmosphere seem too coincidental. They feel like echoes of the radio's narrative, physical manifestations of the confusion it sows. Perhaps the broadcasts aren't just coming from some distant signal, but are rooted in here, dredged up from the house's history or even its fabric, using the radio as a mouthpiece for its own twisted memories. The house remembers. A whisper in the static seems to breathe. What you choose to forget. The line hangs in the air, heavy with implication, suggesting a partnership between the signal and the structure, a parasitic event feeding on your sense of self. You stumble through the rooms, a stranger in a life that feels increasingly borrowed, unsure of what is real and what is merely an echo of a past that belongs to someone or something else. The dial spins wildly, a phantom finger guiding it through impossible frequencies until it locks, not on a voice, but on a sound that chills you to the bone. The absence of sound underneath a roaring, chaotic static. It isn't just noise anymore. It's a language you understand instinctively, a prophecy screamed directly into the hollow chambers of your skull. The forecast is simple. delivered with an unbearable clarity buried beneath the sonic assault. Your end comes here, at dawn. There is no mistaking the message, no room for interpretation. A time is set. The dread is no longer a creeping vine. It is a fist around your heart, squeezing the breath from your lungs. Pure, unadulterated panic floods your system, a tidal wave washing away every vestige of rational thought. You have to get out. You have to destroy it. You lunge for the radio, intending to smash it, silence the horrible decree. But your hand feels impossibly heavy, like trying to push through thick water. You turn towards the door, needing to flee the house, the source, everything. But the hallway seems to stretch, the floorboards tilting at odd angles, the air thick and viscous. It feels like the house itself is resisting, its very structure shifting to hold you captive. The walls pulse faintly, a sickly light flickering behind the aged plaster. And the static isn't just from the radio now. It's in the air, vibrating through the floor, resonating in your bones. The supernatural element is no longer a whisper. It is a roar, a physical force pressing down on you. The static is a deafening cacophony, 1,000 tortured voices trying to break through simultaneously, ripping holes in the fabric of reality. Physical reality distorts around you. The corners of rooms soften and blur. Familiar objects seem to shrink or swell, and the floor feels less like solid ground and more like shifting sand. The house is undeniably alive, not with comforting warmth, but with a cold, malicious energy directed solely at you. The air temperature plummets, an intense, paralyzing cold seeping into your clothes, chilling you deeper than skin and bone. An overwhelming smell, metallic and cloying, like old blood mixed with something decaying in the walls, assaults your nostrils. Blinding flashes of light erupt in the periphery of your vision, accompanied by sharp cracking sounds that might be breaking glass or snapping bone. Your psychological state is one of complete disintegration. There is no thought, only instinct, the primal urge to survive, battling against the inexplicable paralysis. You are trapped in a nightmare, but you are terrifyingly awake. The static motif is the dominant sensory experience, drowning out everything else. It is the sound of the house's breath, the sound of your own fear amplified 1,000 times, the sound of the approaching end. It has become the physical manifestation of the horror, filling your ears, your mind, the entire world. Can sound itself consume a life, you wonder, as the static roars louder, promising dawn? Welcome to the eerie hour. Some places don't just haunt you, they wait. Tonight, we explore the silence waiting within abandoned walls, the hum found in the dark, and the broadcast that refuses to end. If you enjoy descending into the strange and the forgotten, don't forget to like and subscribe, and share your theories below. Now, let's begin. But remember, once the story starts, something always follows. The air inside the house is colder than it should be. Even for late autumn, dust motes dance in the single beam of light slicing through a crack in the boarded-up window. You step further in, the floorboards groaning a protest beneath your weight. It's the silence that strikes you first, a deep, absolute quiet that presses against your ears. They say this house has been empty for decades, that something happened here. But the stories are vague whispers around town, wrapped in superstition and fear. You came looking for answers. For the source of the legend, armed only with curiosity and a sense that something wanted to be found. In the main room, a layer of grime coats everything. A faded armchair sits crumbling by a stone hearth, its velvet ripped. In the corner, half hidden by shadows, is an old radio. It's a hefty wooden thing, dials worn smooth by unseen hands, an antenna bent at an odd angle. It looks ancient, forgotten. You approach it slowly, drawn by a pull you can't explain. A faint, metallic smell, like old electronics or ozone, hangs in the air near it. You reach out, your fingers hovering over a dial. It feels strangely cold. A sudden wave of nausea rolls through you, a fleeting dizziness that makes the room tilt. Was it just the stale air, or something else? The radio sits silent, inert, but it feels charged, expectant, like it's waiting for you to make the first move. You touch the dial. The static isn't sudden. It's a slow bloom in the silence, like frost spreading. It starts faintly, a whisper just below the threshold of hearing, but it grows, filling the space between your thoughts. It's not the clean electronic hiss of modern radio static. This is organic, layered, almost textured. You listen closer, head cocked, trying to discern if it's just interference or something more. The air around the radio feels perceptibly colder now, a chill that sinks into your bones regardless of your layers. The faint metallic smell intensifies, sharp and biting. Doubt begins to erode the edges of your resolve. Is this static real, or is it in your head, a product of the oppressive silence and the house's reputation? Your hand shakes slightly as you try the dial again, attempting to tune it, to make the noise stop, or perhaps to find a coherent signal. But the static remains, invariant across the band. It feels less like a wall of noise and more like a vast, intricate fabric. Within it, you start to hear things, or imagine you do. A distant bell? A muffled voice? The sounds are fleeting, swallowed almost instantly by the hiss. This ambiguity gnaws at you, planting a seed of psychological fracture. Could the house itself be broadcasting? Is the static its language? Perhaps the house is listening too. The static is no longer just sound. It's a presence, humming with a low, resonant energy that seems to seep from the walls themselves. It presses in, heavy and constant, a blanket woven from noise and cold air. Then, through the intricate tapestry of static, a distinct sound emerges. It's a series of taps, rhythmic and deliberate, coming from within the house, not the radio. Tap, tap, tap. It echoes down an unseen hallway, pulling your attention away from the buzzing set. You freeze, listening, your heart hammering against your ribs. The cold air clings to you, and you notice a damp, musty smell, like wet earth and forgotten things, rising from somewhere deeper in the house. The tapping stops as suddenly as it began, replaced by an unnerving silence that feels louder than the noise it interrupted. You turn back to the radio, compelled, and through the static, a voice solidifies. It's low, genderless, and distorted, as if speaking through miles of wire and time. It doesn't address you directly at first. It recites fragmented phrases, disjointed sentences that seem to be describing the house history, but a twisted, nightmarish version. The weight in the walls, the breath behind the plaster. She never left. It feels like a confession, a memory dredged from the house's foundation. Fear spikes, sharp and cold. You reach for the radio's power switch, desperate to silence it, but your fingers meet only smooth wood where a switch should be. The radio has no off button. The voice continues its chilling monologue, its tone calm, almost conversational, making the horrors it describes all the more unsettling. You realize with a jolt of pure terror that the voice isn't just reciting history, it's embodying it, speaking from within the house itself. The story isn't in the past, it's happening now. You are trapped with it. The voice from the static shifts, its focus narrowing. It begins to describe this room, your actions, but with unsettling inaccuracies. She stands by the old hearth, the fire long dead, searching for an exit that doesn't exist. Aren't near the hearth. You're by the radio, yet the description is close enough to reality to twist your gut into knots. A profound disorientation washes over you. Is the voice seeing you, or is it attempting to make you conform to its narrative? You glance towards the doorway, the path you entered, but it seems further away now, shrouded in deeper shadow. Looking around, objects appear subtly wrong. A chair is tilted impossibly. A picture frame hangs askew. The image within too dark to discern. You feel a growing urge, a compulsion to move deeper into the house, towards the hallway where you heard the tapping. The voice from the radio guides you, its low murmur weaving through the static like a thread. Through the second door on the left, where the key was lost. Keys. The thought lodges itself in your mind. Keys to what? Doors? Exits? Or something else entirely? You haven't seen any keys, yet the word resonates heavy with unspoken meaning. A psychological fracture deepens. You question your own memory, your own free will. Are you walking towards the door because you chose to, or because the voice told you to? Every path leads to the same threshold, and you fear where that threshold might lead. The air feels thick, making each breath a conscious effort. The voice in the static grows louder, more insistent. It's building towards something, a crescendo of chilling pronouncements. It speaks of a specific moment, a convergence, an end. The signal strengthens. The broadcast is complete. The final message is received. The static itself is no longer just a sound. It vibrates against your skin, a tangible pressure in the air that makes your teeth ache. The smell of ozone is now overpowering, stinging your nostrils, like standing too close to a faulty, high-voltage machine. The temperature drops sharply, a sudden, unnatural cold that feels less like air and more like the absence of heat, of life. You look at the radio, then at the door the voice directed you towards. Paranoia floods you. You feel watched, not just by the unseen speaker, but by something else in the room. Something that breathes the same cold, ozone-scented air. The walls feel closer, the ceiling lower. The static is a physical force now, pressing in, overwhelming your senses. You can almost see the sound, a shimmering, hazy curtain descending. The voice proclaims the imminent arrival of the predicted moment, the final stage of its broadcast. You stand frozen. A profound sense of resignation washing over you, mingled with pure, undiluted terror. There is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The radio's narrative has become your reality. The end is not an ending, it is a transformation. The predicted moment doesn't arrive with violence, but with an overwhelming dissolution. The static doesn't just fill the room, it consumes you. It flows into your ears, across your skin, behind your eyes. There's a sensation of your consciousness being unpicked, unraveled, absorbed into the vast, intricate hum. Memories flicker past like brief, distorted broadcasts, then are overwritten by the voice, by the static's endless narrative. You are no longer a separate entity, but a frequency, a pattern within the noise. Or perhaps the absorption is incomplete. Perhaps you are caught, trapped in a repeating loop within the house, forever walking towards that door, forever listening to the voice predict the moment of convergence, never reaching it, never escaping it. The oppressive static fades, not into silence, but into a faint, lingering echo, like a phantom limb of sound. The house is still, or appears to be. The extreme cold remains, a heavy cloak you can't shrug off. The air still carries the faint, unsettling scent of dust and ozone. There is no body, no definitive end, just the absence of you as you were. The house stands, perhaps claimed, perhaps simply a vessel now. The radio sits in the corner, silent or humming just beyond hearing, a dark promise that the cycle continues, the broadcast always playing somewhere. You might feel a faint whisper on the wind outside, a sound that might be a name, or just the groan of old wood settling into decay. The horror doesn't conclude, it simply is. And if you hear it again tonight, don't answer. Not yet.